this could be pretty quick, or it might take just a little while, but we'll find out. This has been an interesting week. First of all, thanks to anyone and everyone on the call who attended PE days this week. And we had about 130 or so members, including the Feely class, that were registered for that. And then we were joined by 20 PEs in training from FDOT for the walkarounds to the legislator's office. So I thought that was very good. I think we had, was it 63 confirmed meetings, Laura, with different legislators.
Yes.
Over at the Capitol. Obviously, a lot of time people, wind up meeting with their staff, but that's okay. Staff makes a lot of decisions. They make the recommendations to the legislators, and so they're important people to talk to as well. It's always hard when they're here, though, because it doesn't matter if they're in committee weeks or in session, although they're even busier during session. They're always in committee meetings, and as soon as they're not in committee meetings, they go home. So it's hard to catch them sometimes in their office. And I talked with Laura yesterday, and this coming week we're gonna, do our post-mortem on the PE Days event. But Laura's also talking about, getting, more involved at the regional level with both groups to get people going and actually go meeting with their legislators, at home. And I think that'll help, in getting meetings when people come up here. That's a tough thing to do. I know people would like to have the names of the legislators earlier, but the fact is they won't confirm with us until 2 or 3 days before. And probably all, if not all, the vast majority of those 63 meetings were confirmed Thursday, Friday, or Monday before, we started on Tuesday. So it's just kind of hard to do. But if they know you from back home, as we see from our members who have personal relationships back home, it's much easier to get those meetings, and people will actually get to meet with the legislature. So we're going to look at all this and see what we can do to make this even better next year and move forward. But on Monday afternoon, just before we got started, the first bill on our list here, and I've been promising you new bills, and unfortunately I'm about to give them to you. This first one right here, higher education finances, sounds kind of innocuous, except that it exempts the universities from CCNA. And they've tried this a few times. A few years ago, they tried to do it with a last minute amendment to a bill that made it onto the House side, and then it became a bitter fight that went right to the end of the session, at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on the last night. It was basically the last thing the legislature did, and the Senate refused to put the amendment on their bill. And so they were not successful in that attempt. This particular attempt here, they tried again a couple years later, and they did it the right way. They filed a bill. It went to the first House committee and had such problems there. I think the final vote was 12-10, and it passed. But there was a couple of people that had to leave to go present other bills, and unfortunately, they were both engineers, and would have, if they had been there and hopefully would have voted for us. There was a couple other legislators that would have broken that way too, and we would have beat them. So it never went any further than that first committee. Never got heard in the Senate at all. So now they're coming back, and the way they've got this one positioned is this is a budget bill. And so all they have to do, you'll see there's no companion bill. They brought it up in a committee on Tuesday, passed it, so it becomes a committee bill. It's now been referred to one other committee, which is the Full Appropriations Committee, and it'll be heard on Tuesday. And it passes the Senate, which it will. And we met with the Senate president while our members were here. It just becomes part of the budget package. So if the House were to agree to it, this could pass and become law without being heard in a single committee in the House. And that's why they're doing it that way. They know they can't get it through the committees in the House. It's being pushed by the current chancellor of the state university system, Ray Rodriguez. I know John has a meeting, I think, set with him next week to discuss it with him. But he was the House member a few years ago when when the fight really happened and went late at night. He was the House member that was really pushing for this, and he was not happy when it didn't pass. Um, and he was elected to the Senate after that for a couple of years, and then was appointed by Ron DeSantis as the chancellor of the state university system. So, um, you know, we've got a formidable opponent here, and they're trying to do it in kind of a sneaky way, and we're gonna have to deal with it. I'm not gonna talk anymore about what we're gonna do because I want to sit down with John and Derek and you know do the strategy here. I would say this is the exact same setup we had a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when they tried to cap the CEI rates on FDOT projects. And if you'll remember, that one came out of the House. It was part of the package. When it went to the first conference committee, the House refused to agree to it. And instead, they agreed to do a study, or a report, which FDOT did, which is somewhat favorable for us. But this one is lined up the same way. I think the whatever strategy we employ here, the target's going to be the House. I don't think there's a lot of hope in the Senate. When we met with the Senate president on Wednesday, it was me and Carlos Panin and a handful of other members. When I brought this issue up, and we have a very good relationship with her, it's not that, but when I brought this up, she started laughing and she said, she goes, you're treading on thin ice or something like that. She goes, a lot of people like that bill. And I'm like, yeah, everybody except the designers. But we were there for the members to get to talk to her, so we didn't take it any further than that. She mentioned something about talk to Senator Perry, which we were already doing, and that. But Derek, and I see you're on here. My feeling is, I mean, we're gonna try to mess with it a little bit in the Senate if we can. If you think we need to send letters to the full appropriation committees or emails or that kind of stuff, we can cut that loose Monday just to show them we have a problem when we don't like it. But I don't think we'll stop it in the Senate.
I agree with you, Alan. I mean, the Senate seems to be cooked where it is. Ray Rod is still held in high regard by his Senate colleagues. But there is a play definitely in the House that we'll pursue in that regard.
Right. Okay. Well, like I said, I meant to send you and John a text just to get 15 minutes sometime today and just chat about this. Because my other idea would be to start working, have our members start working, calling their district offices back home. I don't want to do the full Monty of having people just rain emails down on them here in their capital offices, because the House hasn't done anything yet. As our members went around, they were talking to the members about this. And it's more, we're not arguing really the merits of CCNA. I told the Senate president, I just said, look, we're perfectly willing to debate the merits of CCNA anytime. This bill just doesn't give us that chance, the way it's being done. And, so I think that's really the argument, and, maybe a little bit of here's why CCNA is a good idea. But anyway, we'll talk about that more later. But I want everybody to be aware of that has popped up, and it's like every other year now. At least it's not every year, but every other year we get a nice CCNA bill, and the last 3 or 4 of them have come from the universities. Just scrolling down, the other one that popped up for us on Tuesday is a Interstate Mobility and Universal Recognition Occupational Licensing Act, which is a really fancy way of saying, at least for our industry, that if an engineer is licensed as a PE in any other state, they can come to Florida, and if they're not a convicted criminal or something of that nature that they set out in the bill, they can apply and they will be licensed in the state of Florida. There's no reciprocity agreement. It could be a state where we have a reciprocal agreement, or it could be a state where we don't. It could be a state with lesser standards than we have for licensure. It's just it really is straight up, and it's all basically all the DBPR licensed or registered industries, but for us and them as well, it's just that simple. If somebody is licensed in another state and they don't have one of the few caveats that are broken out in the bill, then they just come down here and apply, and they're licensed. which obviously our board of professional engineers doesn't like. A lot of people don't like, and I've been getting a lot of information on it. It was just with everything going on this week and CCNA breaking loose, I have not been able um, to do my homework yet, but I'll do that this weekend. And I was on a call with Zana and John Rhimes from our board, and then there were some people on there from NCEES and some other groups, and so there's some opposition forming to get this stopped. As you can see, it hasn't moved through any committee in the House. I think it's had one committee. Laura, if you could scroll down just a little bit. Yeah,
Alan?
yeah, it's past one in the Senate. So there's still time. There's still, in total 5 different committees that have to go through, and then the floor of the House and Senate. Yeah, Angelina, you got a question?
Yes, I was actually at the Regulatory Reform Committee on Wednesday, and this bill did come up and it did pass that committee. 1333.
Well, I went through all these bills last night. It's still not showing that mine wasn't showing that it's done anything. So I'll look back into that. Okay, so maybe it's past one in the House.
Yeah, because right after I was there for our bill for 1395, I was getting ready to walk out the room and they brought up that 1333 was on the agenda, and there was literally no questions, no comments, no discussion, which really surprised me.
Well, now that you say that, I remember you sent me that text. Yeah, that's weird because it's not showing up on the state's website that bill is moved. But okay, well, I appreciate that, and thank you again, Angelina. Angelina covered the House version of the condo bill was in its first committee on Wednesday when everything else was going on, and Angelina covered that for us. And I understand there was some confusion in that committee. The sponsor was saying the engineers were okay with general contractors and local building inspectors doing the inspections on the condos, and we are not. And I talked with her staff yesterday, and I have a meeting with her Monday at 3:30.
Yeah, I softened my comment. Instead of saying we were against all contractors, the way I phrased it at the meeting was just like we're not okay with every engineer is qualified to look at structures. We don't believe every contractor is qualified to look at the structural components either. So we need to work on that section with you further. So that's how I presented, because I didn't want to just throw her under the bus when she said she had worked with us. And she had been
well,
that
that was a statement she shouldn't have made, because we've actually, Derek and John, when we talked about these bills early on, when the House bill came out, our target was really Danny Perez, the incoming Speaker of the House, because he's actually behind this bill. He just assigned it to her to run, so we really had not talked to her about it, but she was up there saying that she's been working closely with us, and that's just not correct. But she's brand new. I mean, this is her very first year, so she, it takes a little while for them to learn the process too. But anyway, I'll get it all cleared up on Monday when I meet with her.
Yeah, she said that in response to a question from Representative Nixon, because Representative Nixon said, "Have you spoken to the contractors and the engineers? Are they okay with your revision?"
Yeah.
He said, "Yes, I've been coordinating with them."
Well, look, it is what it is. It is what it is when we send 150 people across the street to meet with 63 different legislators or their staffs. If it were me, I wouldn't have a Democrat legislator question a Republican's bill, but that's the way it turned out. And like I said, I'll double back and get it all straightened up.
Yep.
She was a real nice lady. She was at breakfast with us on Wednesday, and with Senator Bradley, which are the two people that are carrying that bill. And I walked them out, and we had a good conversation. And she was kind of telling me where Senator Bradley said the area where she lives in has 0 condos, which makes her perfect on this bill. Representative Lopez is Miami-Dade, and she lives on Brickell Avenue, which is nothing but condos. So she was telling me a little bit about what she's hearing from the folks back home and stuff. So, but we'll get it straightened up Monday.
Yeah, I did stay behind and talk to her and offer her my card to follow up as well. So I asked her to reach out to you first.
Yeah, well, the person that was texting me, by the way, was one of the condo lobbyists, and his first text was like, "Are you guys okay with, GCs and building inspectors doing this?" And I'm like, "No, we're not." And then I get a text back. He goes, "Do you know Angelina Fairchild?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's one of ours." I said, "But I've got my members in town right now." And then he texted back and said, "She handled that really, really well, because you got up and basically told, the committee that the representative was wrong, but you did it in a very nice way, evidently." So, kudos, because that's what you do, is you're just like, "Hey, we have a concern with this, but we really look forward to working with you," and blah blah blah, and
Yep,
get out the door.
thanks.
So anyway, I very much appreciate that. Yeah, Laura, if anybody has any questions, obviously raise your hand. CLGR, we've canceled the meeting for this morning. I don't think we would have a quorum, but and my phone's going crazy over here. But we'll get on this bill, this licensing bill, and get that figured out. I've got a call scheduled this afternoon with the architects, and because they'll be involved in that one, and as well as the CCNA bill we'll be working together on. So we'll be putting our heads together today too. So this is the last time you're probably going to see this one. This is the statute of repose bill that we've talked about. It passed the Senate early on. We've reported on that at least 1 or 2 weeks. It's now passed all its committees in the House. The House laid their bill on the table, is what they say, because the Senate had already sent the bill over. They're ready to take up this. They've already done second reading and pass theirs out. So the Senate bill's there. They'll take it up probably. They're on the floor today, aren't they, Derek? The House? Yeah, they'll probably take it up today and pass it out. So that one's done. Takes the statute of repose from 10 years to 7, and gives us a better date at which the clock starts running on that statute of repose. We just talked about the condos and that. It's on second reading in the Senate, so they're probably just kind of wait and see what's going on in the House. But Bradley has a really firm grip on what's going on here, and so I'm not concerned about this bill. The only thing that we have is what we were just talking about, that in the House bill, there's language in there that would allow general contractors and the local building officials to inspect those buildings, and we don't want that. So. And I don't think Bradley would agree to that. We went through all that last year. Like I said, the problem with having a person that's brand new in the legislature in their first year of their first term, she hasn't been part of this leading up to this. And so that's mainly what I'm going to be doing on Monday, is just kind of explaining to her how we got where we were. But all of that stuff was debated last year, and that's just a reaction to the thought that there may not be enough engineers, but we're not going to know until people actually start doing the inspections. Sovereign immunity hasn't moved since last week. The insurance industry is hitting that one pretty hard. The cities and counties are hitting that one really hard. So I wouldn't give this one much of a chance, but we're going to keep it right there on the report for now, because with Gruters doing the Senate bill and stuff, you never know what's going to happen. And then a lot of the bills that we've been looking at, we're going to just monitor. Obviously, Jeff will talk more about this when he does his program here in about half an hour. But if I were a betting man, I'm betting that we're not going to see ratification of that DEP rule this year. Again, for those that may not have been on the call last week, this bill that you're looking at here, 7002, and the one that from the House side that is just down from that one, neither one of them have the proposed rule in it that we're worried about. It's just that would be where they would have to put it if they wanted to ratify it this year, which they do want to ratify it this year. We proposed an alternative rule, which was the subject of a hearing on Wednesday. There was a lot going on Wednesday. It was a subject of a hearing on Wednesday, and Jeff Littlejohn presented on our behalf. We had some members there that were there to speak if things got too technical. But Jeff is a engineer, and he is a former deputy secretary at DEP. So I talked with him. He said it was pretty much what he expected it to be. But even if they would come out with something, make a change or make no change and come out with when they come out next week to state
And
what they're
Alan,
done.
Alan, it's Kelly. They're issuing a notice of change today, but
Okay. Well, whatever they do, um, is fine because this isn't going to go anywhere in the legislature from what we're hearing. I don't think they're going to get it heard. And even if they post this notice of change or something like that, if they're still seeking ratification, somebody, I promise, is going to challenge that, and then that's going to put a stop to it anyway. So I just don't see any possible way, unless powers far greater than us decide they want this. I don't see it happening, and there's no indication that that's going on. That the superpowers are pushing for this. So I think they'd like to see it, but I think they dislike the part they don't want. And we all know who I'm talking about. They don't want this coming out that, hey, this is going to raise housing prices. That's what they don't want. And this would. So the next one is the anti-woke bill for the universities. I'm going to probably just take this one off. As we've looked into this, if we haven't explained it on here, let me just do it real quick. They run on a 5-year cycle. So even if ABET has not produced a final rule or ruling on the issue of the diversity and equity and inclusion programs. So it's kind of a rule. It's not even in place, but should they do it, universities are on this 5-year renewal cycle with their recertification. So even if a year from now, somebody a university went for recertification and they didn't have the proper program, they're going to be told what to do to fix it, and they're going to have 5 more years to fix it. So everybody's going to get at least 5 or 6 years, and some may get as many as 10 if they've just recently been recertified. So there's plenty of time, to work on this and going into the future, and see what gets passed and how much it affects it, and does ABET actually pass their final rule. Because as I've told you all, they're going to see this coming from other states too. So, a lot of it's in their court, but there's going to be plenty of time to work on it. So we do not, I was joking at the beginning of the call for those that were on, I was joking about Miami's going to be the engineering school in Florida before this is done, but there's no real danger that anybody's going to lose their accreditation, anytime soon. So, probably just pull this one off. Okay, Laura. This DOT bill hasn't moved. I don't know why. They took the stuff out that I've talked about in the past. It's going to be part of the budget package for DOT. They put a lot of stuff in here about autonomous vehicles, and there were a lot of legislators at our reception the other night that were talking about that and that are excited about that. But maybe they're just working on the bill. There's still plenty of time, so maybe they're just working on it and holding it up so they can get everything they want in it. Because it was a train last year, it might very well be a train this year. And a train, just for people know, it's just a term we use, that you've got a bill that's going to pass, so everybody tries to put everything they can on it to get their stuff included as well. But so far, not much to report. This one hasn't moved. With that one, and then we come to the fire sprinkler systems. That one's still kind of cruising along slowly. It was TP'd in the House. We did let them know that the House bill still contains the language that would allow contractors to design the expansion of a fire sprinkler system. We have said there are parts in the bill where they could move ahead if they needed to, but can't redesign the system. If they start adding more pipe, it needs to be done by an engineer. And so we've done that in the House. The Senate bill, which has been done by Senator Perry, he refused to put that in at the start and continues to refuse to put it in now. So I don't think we have to worry that's going to happen. I think they're holding up the House bill to get that settled, though, between the two of them. And that's kind of what I have. Like I said, it was a big week. I really do appreciate everybody coming. it's always good to see the people here and get the people across the street and have a little fun with this. And we'll do it. We're looking to set this up in January of next year. I like the idea. I liked having it during session because we're much more clear on, kind of the things we're facing, and this is a good example. If we had held this back during committee weeks, we'd have had no idea about CCNA or the licensing bill or, movement of some of these other bills. So I think it's good to do that. It was hectic, and we came up against, just internally, we came up against spring break. And I've got several of my staff here who are parents, mommies that had to take care of their kids. And so we'll watch for that next time. But this time around, legislature will meet January and February. So we'll do it second or third week of January. And I think that'll work out well for us, and bring those people from Miami-Dade County up here and freeze them to death in January. Do we
That's
have any
rude.
questions?
Funny.
Hey, you guys thought it was cold in March. But anyway, does anybody have any questions about anything or comments on the event? Or if not, I'll let everybody get back to work, and Jeff will start here in about 20 minutes. All right,
Thank
sounds
you,
good,
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Laura,
Thank you.
Alan.
Thank you,
Thank
Alan.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Ellen.